As someone who's beat brown belts in competition as a white belt, here are my tips on what you should focus on as a white belt. In my opinion, the first thing to become competent at is pin escapes. You'll need to be able to escape a black belt side control, but you at least want to be able to get out of side control, mount the back of other white belts. This way, you're not just getting stuck there the entire round. You're able to escape there and start working the other things. If you're just stuck in side control, it's going to be hard to work guard passing. It's going to be hard to work guard. First, get some pin escapes, but you don't want to be just in a defensive cycle the whole time. You don't want to be escaping side control, not knowing what to do for the rest of it, then just getting put back in there. So once you get pin escapes down, next thing I think you should do is work guard and guard passing. In my opinion, you can work them both at the same time, because ideally in guard, your goal is to become the passer, by sweeping them, getting on top. So I think they're good to work at the same time right here. There's a little arrow right there. So I would go from pin escapes to start working guard and guard passing. Because as you might have noticed from doing jiu-jitsu, this is usually what decides who gets to a pin. If you're not great at playing guard and they're able to pass your guard, you're gonna end up in side control in a defensive cycle. If you're not good at passing, they might be able to, arm drag you, get to your back, sweep you, then pass you, get to side control. So in general, in jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, the most two important things are guard and guard passing. So honestly, most of your time as a white belt, if you want to get as good as possible, should be focused on these two things. And I think you can really work them at the same time. So go deeper on what exactly you should work from guard. You want to, in my opinion, get particularly good at a few guards. Essentially, you want to be able to deal with them standing or on both knees, because that's a possibility in a roll. Either they're going to be standing or on both knees, and you got to be able to respond to either of these. So let's say, to just give you some examples of some guards to work, knee shield right here is a great guard, really good for maintaining distance, using your knee right here and your top and bottom arm as a frame. And say you're really good at knee shield, a great guard to add to that is reverse De La Riva, because say this person stands up, now all you're doing is you're grabbing their ankle, and now you're in reverse De La Riva. So if you can get good at these two guards, that's great. Same with, maybe butterfly guard and shin on shin. That's another example of two guards that go very well together. Essentially, when you get good at one guard, you want to get good at another complementary one that, maybe deals with a reaction that might occur. So that would be my advice. One other guard I think is really important to learn is just single leg X. I think it's one of the most consistent ones, especially for white belts, just because your actual ability to sweep from there is a lot higher because you're really connected to their leg. So I think that's another good one to work. And I think it ties together with a lot of other guards very well. So I would say those. But besides just the guard to work, to talk about some concepts from guard that I think are the most important. And they're essentially two. It's maintaining distance and maintaining connections. So what does that mean? Well, if someone wants to pass your guard into side control per se, for him to get into this position, he had to do two things. He had to get around their legs, and he also had to close distance. If they were farther away from each other, like here, he's around his legs here, but he hasn't closed the distance there. So what we want to do is stop them from doing these two things. So maintaining distance is how we stop them from closing the distance and getting chest to chest. And the way we maintain distance is with frames. Here, for example, he has a knee shield, and he has his arm across his shoulder with a cross shoulder post. And this is how he's maintaining distance, right? So he can't actually close this. And this is quite an easy concept to grasp. But you'll notice, the longer you do jiu-jitsu, you're always worrying about this. And a lot of times, your guard getting passed isn't because of some move you didn't know. It's just because you weren't cognizant enough of maintaining distance. And another thing, which is connection. So, how I said they had to get around the legs? Well, connection is how we stop them from getting around the legs. So as you see here, let's Versatile Heave is a better example. But you see here, the thing stopping the top person from just walking around this bottom guy's guard is this grip on the ankle and his foot, which you can't really see right here, but it's like curled around his leg. These are connections here. Because he has these, the top guy can't just go around and do like a Toriando pass like this. So he's stopping one of the steps of the guard pass with that. And you'll kind of see your limbs can only do one of the two things, right? So it's kind of just playing that game of how can I stay connected enough that they can't go around my legs, but also maintain enough distance so they can't pass my guard. That's the main battle you're playing when it comes to guard retention. And yeah, once you get that, you get a few guard passes down. Then you can start moving to the next step, but let's start talking about guard passing. So I think you should work this together with guard. And yeah, so essentially, what I think are the most high percentage guard passes are the ones where you have one leg in the middle, like a knee slice, right here, or any passes from the headquarters position. I think these are some of the most effective. Or if you have both your legs to the outside, like a Toriando pass right here. Just because if they can have inside position with both their feet, with like butterfly hooks, for example, it's going to be a lot easier for them to off balance you, start entering into single leg X. And while there are passes you can do from there, like body locks, I think it's the most beginner friendly to just work things like knee slices, Toriandos. It's just going to keep you the safest the entire time. And yeah, I just think it's the best thing to work as white belts, and also even at a higher level as well. Yeah, so once you get a few passes you really like from there, there's also the idea of concepts, and you should honestly employ these concepts the entire time, but the two concepts are essentially the opposite of guard. So from guard, they're trying to maintain distance and keep connection. So while passing, you want to close the distance and remove any grips they have on you so you can get around their legs. So as an example, Versatile Heaver right here, if you were to look at the different limbs he was using to maintain distance, his foot and his arm right here are the things maintaining distance. And even when you clear his foot or his hand, now he has his elbow and his knee. But say we took all of this top area out of the equation, this guy would just be able to get chest to chest. His legs aren't really doing, his leg and bottom arm aren't really doing anything to maintain distance, but what they are doing is maintaining connection. So say as a top person, you wanted to get chest to chest, you got to work on clearing their frames. You got to work on clearing that top arm, clearing this foot, so you can start getting chest to chest. But say you wanted to pass outside, you're going to have to worry about clearing this hand, clearing this bottom leg, so you can get this leg free, start going for like a Toriando pass like this. So essentially, you're always playing this game of maintaining distance and connection, whether you're on top or bottom. You're just a different player in the game. Now, once you've worked these two things, and honestly, I shouldn't say once you've worked them because I think they're the most important parts of your jiu-jitsu. You're always going to be coming back to this. But there's going to be a point where you feel pretty confident in your guard and pretty confident in your passing, but you're still getting caught with some dumb stuff like just random triangles maybe, or like, say you get caught in a triangle and no escapes, or like you get caught in the straight ankle and you're like, there's no way out for me. That's when I think it's good to start filling in some gaps. So once you get confident enough in these two things, I say you start working on filling in some gaps. Now, something to say about guard and guard passing. I think you should really work this until you feel very confident in them. And it's kind of a ego hit, right? Because you can get tapped a little less. If you worry about these, not as much, you're like, okay, let me just keep working the submission defense so I don't get caught. However, if you just have really good guard and really good passing, the chances of you getting put in a triangle are just lower. So I would really just work guard and guard passing a lot. And only when it's a really glaring issue would I start filling in gaps. So what I mean by filling in gaps, triangle defense, submission from pins, because everyone wants to get the tap, but that's like the last step in the game. If you can't, play guard well, if you can't pass well, knowing how to do arm triangle doesn't matter too much. You're only going to do that on like the trial guy, you know what I mean? So I'd say once you have this down well enough, start filling in the gaps, start doing this stuff, and once you feel like, okay, like I'm where I want to be with that, then you just, restart the system, you go back to guard and guard passing, you keep working that, and then you fill in the gaps, whatever they might be in your game, then you go back to guard and guard passing. And, as you get better, it's going to be more complex of what you need, but this is what I believe you should work on as a white belt. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah. This video is a response to a question someone asked me in my online community called Jiu-Jitsu Lab. If you want me to answer any of your questions or review any of your competition or rolling footage, join in the link down below. Peace.